Security drama is now heading to Parliament. Deputy President's allies demand the summoning of top civil servants to explain the changes. What do you read into that? Is this a government against one of its own?
Well, I don't think so, but security issue has been used before. You remember one time security was withdrawn for members of parliament in the opposition, or in total, and you know what that does to somebody in leadership. You feel threatened and you are not able to do one or two things. The other time when Raila Odinga was sworn as the people's president, security was withdrawn for you know, for Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, all that team, even Raila himself, and it became a negotiating position. There is a time when embassies disagree, when you have an ambassador here and they disagree, Kenya disagrees with their country, if you withdraw the GCU from that embassy, they will quickly negotiate. And when it came to the DP, they only moved the GSU, and the GSU is particularly for presidential, you know, protection, and may not necessarily include the deputy president. If it's done, is out of goodwill. It's just like the presidential jet is only used by the president. It's not used by both the president and the deputy president at the same time. You'll find other Air Force One planes may be used by the deputy president, but you will never use the presidential jet. So just like a state house is used by the president alone, it is not used by the president or the deputy. So the deputy is a principal assistant to the president. In this case, what they did was to move the GSU to other duties and give him administrative police who guard the premises. It is true, administrative police guard the premises. So the premises cannot be guarded by GSU. The GSU is for personal security. So I don't think it is something to read much in. Yeah. The deputy president is still secure, but more secure than Kenyans, common Kenyans, as he says, is one of them. He has even made a joke of it and said now he doesn't mind G4, you know, any other security firm to guard him. But I think his security is key. You know, and security of any of these top presidential candidates, if something happens to them, it will look, whether by accident, it will look as if it is calculated, can throw the country into chaos. Okay. So I believe that is a matter, whether it comes to parliament or not, is going to be sorted out. He has now begun to test what us normal people go through. It's very normal. And I believe actually for a Kenyan or any leader should first be protected by the people, but not really by the gun. The people should love you enough that you don't feel threatened if you don't have that sort of security. So I believe even if it comes to parliament, it is something we're going to sort out easily. Parliament will not waste too much time on that. Okay.
You've been on the receiving end for this one, with security being withdrawn and things like that. And at the time, there was complaints. How come you're not complaining now that it's happening to the deputy president?
I wish you allow me to address more important issue on the IBC, but
we'll get into that.
Yes, because to me, these security issues are mere shenanigans. Some of us who have lived in the trenches, yes, we take this police security as a bonus. We don't really mind so much whether they are withdrawn or not. And therefore, I don't think the country should waste a lot of time debating about security of one person, even though he's the deputy president anyway. And I believe it is in the best interest of any government to protect even its worst critics. Yes, I don't think anyone would want to subject the person of the deputy president to harm. I don't think so. Whatever they're doing are, in my view, administrative issues, which they can deal with down there in the police headquarters. but the bigger issue which I want to talk to quickly, I've had the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi speak there in Githunguri about IBC and the BBI having been mismanaged. You know, it is good for one to have principles. And I really respect the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. I highly respect him and adore him as a level-headed leader. But it's good to have principles and take principled positions, especially on critical issues. Because I was on the KSEC grounds when the BBI bill was being unveiled. And I saw Musalia with my own eyes, strolling to go and append the signature on the board, a whiteboard. An opportunity which some of us couldn't get because we were lowly people. You see, he was going there, strolling. Nobody was pulling him. Nobody cajoled him. At that point, did he know this thing was being mismanaged? Did he have issues? Did he have misgivings? So I don't think that is right. That's being honest. Okay. And again, on the issue of the on the IBC,
yeah,
it is not true that ODM, for instance, would want to see Chebukati go home or removed. ODM, which is my party, and I'm the Secretary for Political Affairs in the ODM, by the way, so I speak from a position of knowledge. ODM has not made any position to the effect that it wants Chebukati to go home or any other commissioner in the IBC. Far from it. What has happened is that individual leaders have been voicing their opinions, including myself. And I remember when I spoke at the funeral in Mbeta.
Yeah.
And I'm usually very careful when I speak in public and what I say. What I spoke to, personally, was that the IBC needs to wait a little bit in terms of engaging in critical activities, such as procurement of technology.
Yeah.
To wait a little bit until it is fully constituted. If you can play the clip of my speech in Beta, I was very clear that no matter of weeks, 3 or so weeks' time, we shall have the IBC fully constituted for you to embark on these serious activities.
Yeah.
And I've been vindicated, even by the Court of Appeal judgment recently.
Yeah.
Yes, that we don't rush into situations that would be subjected to arguments or debate later, yeah, or litigation, for that matter. So that was my position, and still remains my position, that we have trodden this path before.
Yeah.
We want IBC to be cautious, to be able to undertake these activities in a manner that is properly grounded in law. And that is what I said, and anybody else who might have spoken, yeah, to the effect that Chebukati needs to go home was basically voicing their personal opinion. Okay. Not the opinion or the viewpoint of ODM as a party. Okay. That much I can tell you. Yes. So it is pointless for people to go talking aimlessly in churches, in the villages, in funerals, about anybody wanting to dismantle IBC or to remove commissioners. That is being cheap, really. Yeah, let us be responsible and be true to ourselves as leaders. Okay. Yes.
Onyonka, there are two issues we're talking about here. Is it fair what happened to the security detail of the deputy president, and should the IBC be reconstituted? And now Opi Ondai is saying that nobody wants Chebukati out.
Thank you. On the issue of the administrative issues about whether the deputy president should have his GSU team and whether he should have APs, in all sincerity, I see these matters purely being administrative.
Yeah.
I have every reason to believe that it is the prerogative of President Uhuru to make sure that his government protects his senior officers. I believe that is his true position up to now. But you see the way politics is in Kenya, the other side, the UDA team is really trying to make mincemeat out of this thing for political mileage. I mean, it is the season.
Yeah.
And therefore, they came out. You saw the statements and the issues my brother Oscar Sudi was issuing in Eldoret when this happened. It's all in the season now, and you're going to see such things. And of course, I believe the UDA team is seeking sympathy so that they can show Kenyans that they are now victims, and they have always raised that. Number two, I only want to agree and disagree with my brother Wandai very briefly. You see, Honorable Wandai, because I've worked with you and I've worked for ODM. Everybody believes that when Jacomi is sitting in a funeral and there are surrogates who are discussing a matter about the IBC, it means he's the one who has sent them. How I would have wished that ODM as a party can actually come out and give an official statement on this matter. Because the truth is, the messaging, you know, when something is said where Prime Minister Raila is, it is not seen as an ordinary statement. All right? So I would wish, because you are the chair of the political activities of the party, ODM needs to make such statements clear. I have never seen anybody from the ODM side, or rather, I've not seen the Prime Minister Raila say that he needed to have Chebukati go home. But this is what certain individuals, including we in One Kenya Alliance, the position we have is that once you people go and discuss this matter and you are with Jacom, then it means there's a possibility that Jacom wanted it to be given out. But since you've made it clear, and I trust you because you know I highly respect you, I only would wish that let ODM come out and give the statement. I agree completely with what the ODM party's stand is on the matter. Let us have an IBC that is constituted legally. Yeah. Let's have an IBC that is not going to come up with the shenanigans about the servers when the elections come. Let us have an IBC that has got a software and a hardware infrastructure on electioneering which is foolproof. Let us make sure that when the next elections are announced next time, if we win, it is a genuine win. If we lose, it is a genuine lose. Okay. Let us not get to a position where every year in our country we go through this issue of IBC. Number two, Musalia Mudavadi is my very, very good friend. And now I'm speaking on my own capacity. I'm not talking as the deputy party leader of Ford Kenya. I was actually disappointed in the statements he made. Why? We have been pushing the BBI not for any particular reason. Because of the issues which are outstanding in our country. And those issues cannot be wished away. In fact, yesterday I saw the editorial of one of the newspapers where they're saying, yes, BBI might have died, but the truth and the reality is that the outstanding issues, you can't have a country where elections take place and people who have got 49% of the vote are just thrown away. You can't have an election which is not free and fair. We have not been having a registration, continuous registration of voters. And yet we are supposed to have done it every single year. It hasn't been done. We don't know whether we are going to use an ID, whether you are using the Huduma number, I mean, these are important issues. So BBI was not about certain individuals coming up with selfish interests. Which selfish interests are there? I mean, after all, if you are going to create the scenario whereby this BBI would have created the change in the structure of the executive, for example, I don't think this was about a single individual. This system of having a presidential system where the winner takes it all, where when somebody wins as the president, he comes and he can actually, God forbid, if he has a majority in the committees, in the budget committee and all the committees of water and what, he can actually ask his party members to make sure all the projects are voted to his place. Where he comes. I mean, and these issues that we need to deal with, Trevor, these are critical issues we have to deal with. So for my brother Musalia, man I highly respect, he was the university ahead of me by 2 years, and we were arrested together in 1982. For him to now start saying at this thing of BBI was it lowers his dignity. All right, I like his politics now, he's focused, but again, he also needs to leave some of these things and just go out to the higher level.
Priscilla, what do you make of this issue? The IBC issue and the security detail issue?
The security detail issue, I think that we should just drop for whatever it is. The timing was wrong. We don't even know who took the decision. I agree with the oversight. Let Parliament go and check whether there's anything there. But just urging that we don't get into such things. You know, every Kenyan should be secured. The VVIPs must be secured. You know, in many countries, actually, presidential candidates receive enhanced security for being presidential candidates. That should happen. And it shouldn't be a matter of conjecture. It should be a matter of organization. You know, one of our best, you know, sort of organized departments is security. So when we start to get lapses in that direction, then that's not very comforting. So it's regrettable that that has happened. And you see now how much energy we have spent on a matter instead of spending time on agriculture and other things that we need to discuss. I'm personally very happy about the debate on economics and the debate on inclusion and the debate on unemployment. even if it is bottoms up, bottoms down, bottoms, you know, wherever. That is a much better conversation than this one of security. So I just, you know, for the authorities, let us not go there.
Okay.
Let these matters be put properly in standing orders, well set out. The presidential candidates now, it's time to guard them.
Yeah.
And then that is not a conversation.
Okay.
And a conversation about security of all Kenyans as we head to the elections, should be done.
Yeah.
So that then we can have freedom to then compete on ideas.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is the last time that matter also
it will
comes
still come up, obviously, because you're the politicians and you're the ones who still
I hope
keep
it doesn't come up again. Well, no, I hope that there is no trigger. You know, if somebody doesn't trigger it, it won't come back.
Yeah.
On IEBC, I think that the question of oversight also arises. Again, the laws are very clear as to how those processes go. So that's an oversight matter. And constitutional commissions routinely have to go through the parliamentary committee. So the same thing will happen with them. We've got a bit of a problem ourselves in the sense that 2/3 has not been achieved. So whatever redress, you know, wacha tuone vile mambo ita.
Do you have any strategies towards that, by the way? Now that you're Commissioner at NGEC, which is the National Gender and Equality Commission.
We did give an advisory in good time.
Yeah.
And we are going to keep insisting on these advisories, because what happens is when you have 7 commissioners and you need to do 2/3, the idea is that no gender should exceed 2/3. So no gender should exceed 66%. It should be, then the other gender is 34%. Yeah. And 2 out of 7 does not give you 34%. You have to get a number that gives you 34%. We are very happy now the Supreme Court has achieved with the coming in of the President and the Chief Justice, Martha Koome. So it's to Jamaliza, you know, the people who round it downwards to 2, but for us it should be rounded forward to 3, not you know, backwards, because backwards then you don't get the percentage right. So there's that conversation around the 2/3 gender rule, but oversight, we have enough law in that area, nothing to worry about. On the former Vice President, Musalia Mudavadi, we are a bit, I'm personally not very happy, because one of the things that we've lost in BBI is the 2/3 formula. We had actually just achieved 50-50 in Senate. We couldn't even believe it in our lifetime, you know, because 2/3 is not the ultimate. 2/3 is a destination, is a negotiated minimum. Otherwise, the best example is 1 man, 1 woman. Even this show is not gender balanced, you see. I am 1 out of 5. So now...
There's Vivian over there, but
not debating. And 2 others that side. So now, that BBI was giving us everything in gender. It was giving us full top-up in the National Assembly, something we have tried to do with the Duale bills. And I am happy because these were colleagues in the 11th Parliament. So we tried it a lot in the 11th Parliament, brought the bill several times. I think the 12th Parliament has also tried it once. So this BBI process was the one giving us full 2/3. Musalia Mudavadi has recently made us very happy, but saying the future is women, the strategy is women. So if the future and the strategy are women, then processes like BBI, where women's issues are covered, become very important processes. You can't just rubbish that process that easily, because it carried hopes and aspirations of many other sectors in the society, including an issue that is outstanding as that one. Now, the sad thing is that matter remains outstanding as we go into an election, because we now don't have a formula, we don't have how we are going to achieve the 2/3 with the next election coming forward. So those are valid conversations and valid arguments. And I hope that towards the end, you will allow us to do a few minutes for NGC at 10. Our commission marks 10 years today. We were published on 30th of August 2011. So today, 30th of August 2021, we get exactly 10 years. So you will allow the gentleman to say something on that before the end of the show.
We'll see how that happens. And Manzo, you know, there's a lot of things that have been happening, whether the deputy president should resign. He says he doesn't want to resign. But I want to stay away from this people-based politics and individuals and talk about the elephant in the room. It is the empowerment of the people. What is it that is lacking? Is it a matter of goodwill, or is it the institutions that are not working? And Honorable Nyonka mentioned something. The AGPO bill, Access to Government Procurement Opportunities, is supposed to give 30% of all procurement to women, persons living with disability, and the youth. Not been implemented. How do you empower a population that right now we know the poverty levels are at 56%? What is the silver bullet? And you're the politicians. You have all the possible means of doing it. What is the silver bullet going into these elections? How do we empower the people?
Well, you know, an election campaign is simply an election campaign. And the best example was President Kibaki. You see, during President Kibaki's reign, the youths like ourselves got an opportunity. And a lot of Kenyans felt free to get opportunity. And his team, including Mudaura then, ensured that these policies of empowering people were followed. And in fact, they were laid down at that particular time. You saw that President Kibaki was, dealt with the issue of the aftermath of an election, whereby you have 49% and 50%, and you have like two equal forces in a country. And he came up with the Nusumkata government, where a lot of people got accommodated in terms of people with disability, youth, women, and all that, so that there were, proper procurement procedures. That has been lacking. And what is really lacking is goodwill. So the leader who leads Kenya in future, now that BBI is no more, the truth of the matter is BBI is gone. And we are likely to repeat the 2017 scenario, whereby somebody merely becomes a president, and we have another equal force. The question is, how will that leader first unite the country, and then now come to these policies as President Kibaki did it in 2007, 2008? How will you accommodate everybody in the country so that they feel they have their space to earn a living? Unfortunately, we are going through tribalism, and tribalism is very strong in this country. No, we haven't dealt with the tribal card, and the politics in the country are largely tribal. Yeah. If you are dealing with that card, you realize where the presidency goes. The people around the president tend to grab everything for themselves, and the rest of the country is left desolate. And that's why you find my good friend, Governor Kingi, is trying to say then we better have political parties to negotiate. Yeah. And the same concept Moses Kuria is trying to do, say, as Mount Kenya, if we have no political party of our own, we will not negotiate anything in government. Yeah. So you can see we have that to deal with, because the issue is sharing of power. The moment somebody is in power, how do they share it to the rest of the country? President Kibaki did it very well. But we have seen Central Kenya has ruled us now for 34 years. Mohi did it for 24 years. Yeah. Is it not the time these two regions also allowed others to lead? And I like one of the persons called Thomas here who challenged Honorable Raila Odinga that why don't you also allow others to lead? Yeah. Now that they have assisted you for many years. The perception that leadership follows resources rather than the other way around. Yes, and we tried to solve that, but it hasn't yet worked. Still, whoever is the president or around the presidency, there are brokers around the president. Some even will execute without his knowledge using his name. And you find resources tend to be pulled all in one region, and the rest of the region suffer. President Uhuru Kenyatta has really tried. Yeah. He has tried to send development to every part of the country, even those who opposed him. Okay. In Makueni, for example, though we were in opposition, he never stopped the construction of Wake Dam. You have seen what he has done in Kisumu and other parts of the country. You have seen what he has done in Mombasa with the Dongo Kundu. And he has really tried. And I think you need a president. Now that we have no constitutional solution, we need a president who is magnanimous enough to do now what BBI would have done. Yeah. And make sure that all Kenyans have access to resources and can grow. Okay. Yeah. What is the silver bullet to empowering the people, especially economically? Where do we start?
But before I get there, I don't quite agree with this notion that so-and-so community should now live for others. If systems were working in this country, it would be material which communities have ruled or not. And indeed, it is also not true that one community can decide to rule. Because even if the Mount Kenya region, for instance, which is said to be the largest in terms of population, even if they stuck alone and to their person, them alone cannot actually win a presidency. They need support from other people. Likewise, the Kalenjins, who are being said to have ruled for 24 years, they cannot on their own produce a president. So they also need other Kenyans. So I don't think it is possible for us to say that now you have ruled, now we live for others. Let us establish systems. Let us establish systems and strengthen them to make them work, so that in the process Kenyans are able to elect whomsoever they feel is able to take care of their interests, okay, in a free and democratic process.
Yeah.
That is what we have been fighting for as ODM, I'm sure you know that. Secondly, the question of empowerment, Trevor, boils down to policy and its implementation. Policy and its implementation. All these countries or nations that have made these steps and achievements have done so on the basis of policy. And where there is policy and there is the goodwill to have it implemented, things happen. You saw it during the Kibaki II administration. You saw it, even the Kibaki I, even though it was disrupted by bad politics that led to the 2005 referendum, okay? When policy can work, and if it is implemented to the benefit of Kenyans. For instance, what we were trying to do through the BBI, Trevor, was monumental. And maybe the Kenyans, with time, they'll come to realize what they have lost. We were trying to create policy framework. For instance, to give the youth a tax holiday, to give the students from the universities a grace period for them not to be taxed with paying loans, to empower the women folk, to empower the wards by ring-fencing funds that go to the wards, the very basic level of our governance system, Trevor. That is policy. That if it could have passed and then implemented, because it can pass and fail to be implemented.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where leadership comes in.
Okay.
Okay? So I think all is possible. And that's why we continue to appeal to Kenyans to give us a chance. And by us, I mean to give Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga a chance to lead this country, for him to be able to actually implement his very, very progressive ideas for the benefit of all Kenyans.
Jimmy Wanjigi, one of your party leaders, was speaking to us exclusively yesterday, and he said that all these leaders have been there for a while and they haven't done much. It is time that you support someone with fresh ideas.
We have heard those stories before, and I welcome him to the game, by the way. Welcome Jimmy Wanjigi to the field, okay? All that we have heard before. And I saw you trying to actually profile him, make him, market him to Kenyans.
We're just giving him a chance to speak, say what you're speaking.
Not every day you do that to people. I wish you also come to my home, my house, and also give me that.
But you're here now.
Yes.
Am I marketing?
Yeah. But then that's the point. Yes, I respect his views and his aspirations. I wish him well. Yes, I wish him well. But I don't think the solution lies in freshness or the age group or what have you. Okay? It doesn't matter. What matters is the ideas that one comes with and brings on the table. You can be as old as whoever, but if your ideas are fresh, your ideas resonate with the people, your ideas are relevant, then you are the right person to lead us. Okay. You can be as young as Jimmy Wanjigi, but if your ideas are retrogressive, then you are not helpful, even if you became president tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
Onyonga, how do we empower the people? This is really the elephant in the room, because everybody says that once resources is in the pockets of the people, everyone is happy. What is the solution here? Is it the issue with the bureaucracy in the institutional management, or is it policy? What's going on?
There are two things which I look at, but let me even actually say the first thing that must be done in our country, and these are observations I think I've made because I've been quite around for a while. If we don't come up with a structure of either a structured way or policies which are going to stop the amount of money that is stolen in our country. All these things you're talking about, Trevor, they're useless. Everything. Let me just look at the figures. The other day you saw the president say we are losing 2 billion shillings a day. It is true. Why? Because the Auditor General in the last 10 years, every single report came out. It was either 450 billion, it was either 500 billion. The last one he did, we were at 600 billion of stolen money. If you look at where we are today, the truth is KRA is actually hitting their targets. We are now at 1.6 trillion. We came in after President Moi had left us with revenues of 200 billion. President Kibaki had reached it about 600-700 billion. You can see where we are. And yet there's really nothing exceptional that is being done. And this money that is being stolen from the top all the way to our county governments. Our county governments have received 2 trillion shillings for the last 10 years. And yet some of these counties, if you go there, you actually can just look at a basic audit and you realize there's nothing to show. You'll find one county has received 106 billion, another one has received 79, 80 billion. But when you ask them, how many health centers have you done? How many ECD centers have they done? Nothing. What have they done with the roads? Minimal. When you look at everything, of course,
they spend most of it on recurrent expenditure.
On recurrent expenditure, including the salaries and everything.
Yeah.
Why is it we are not able to manage ourselves well? So my honest observation is empowering Kenyans, first of all, let us first get first things first. Let us make sure we have a stoppage of the misuse and the stealing of public funds. Number 2, we can come in with, I remember President Kibaki did it when we were having projects which were, I think my 2 colleagues were in Parliament, we had the stimulus package projects. Why are we not able to get funds together so that we can actually have these stimulus projects running? Like, I was so fortunate in my constituency, Trevor, that I had the National Youth Service cohorts in my place. There were 2,000. I had those young men and women for 2 years. I can tell you it changed what my constituency looked like. That money, these young men and women took it. They formed circles. That money, most of them put it together. Many of them started doing small to businesses. Many of them came in and they were organizing themselves. Many of them started buying pieces of land. I mean, this is how you empower your people.
But even that was riddled with corruption again.
Yes, but me, I see the positive side of it. Are you with me? So if you fix the corruption, make sure that you bring people of good mind, like the teams that were running this project from the office of the president. Make sure you execute it at the ground. Why is it impossible for our people to benefit? So to me, this country has the resources, it has the manpower, it has the capacity and the capability. Last point, Trevor. Why have we been defeated to collapse the Women Fund, the Youth Fund, the Weather Fund and everything? It's because people are stealing the money from there. Why can't we have one fund, make sure somebody goes and borrows money from that fund, have his ID or his Huduma number used, and this person is able to be facilitated to start a small project or do something for themselves? And then you come down to the issues. Look at how can a country which is an agricultural country be unable to fix its agriculture, and we have a food deficit? And yet we can take our young people and train them. We used to have extension officers. Yeah. Look at our inputs. Everything. I keep cows, Trevor. I'm unable to feed my cows for them to give me milk. A gunia of 90 kgs is now 2,700. You can't manage.
The cost of production is too high.
Cost of production
the average
is
age of a farmer is 6.
Is it impossible for a government to sit and come up with policies, even setting up a government outfit which can supply these inputs to the poor farmers? This in Kenya did this in 1981, 1979. Yes. These are things which are in the treasury. The reports are when I was in the University of Nairobi doing Economics 101, this is what we were being told. Yeah. What happened?
Priscilla, you know, I find this interesting because the legislators here already know what the solution is, but somehow we're still stuck. Where's the problem then?
Well, I think it's many things, and I think that they spoke well about systems. Yeah. Because it's true, we're all in legislators. I mean, parliamentary committees have a lot of these ideas. Our chairman of the Public Accounts Committee is here. He knows better how deep our corruption is. Budget committees.
They're all here.
I know, but I think it's a systems problem. It's prioritization. It's how much resources. And I think that to the extent that our deficit also now is very high, some of those matters. But I think that because I served in House Business Committee, I think also prioritization. And that's why we're talking about this. Kenya has become like a stunted child.
Yeah.
You are growing, but you are refusing, like a spoiled teenager.
Yeah.
Teenager has just refused to grow. I mean, and I think that we have to grow.
Yeah.
So that the next phase is a growth phase. One of the things that we have received that has been a big blessing has been devolution.
Yeah.
But then the corruption has also been devolved on the same score. So if we cure corruption, actually our biggest malaise now, maybe more than tribalism, is corruption. Because in corruption, everybody is doing the wrong thing. All the counties are doing the wrong things, many offices are doing the wrong things. So we fight corruption with a bit more robust energy, and the institutions of fighting corruption need to actually do that. And then we prioritize the things that matter. We prioritize these economic issues and economic agendas, even in Parliament, in Treasury, in the cabinet that we eventually get. And that's why you're seeing this attraction of politicians in cabinet.
Yeah.
It is because then you understand where the people's issues are, you've been trying to deal with them, you've been trying to resolve them, and you can put them on the agenda. I pushed myself in Parliament, and thanks to all the colleagues here, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, and we have 2 billion shillings for the women reps, and it's doing some useful job. I had a really good time myself with it in Nyeri, assisting the women groups and the youth groups and the groups of persons with disability. It's just amazing how little money, well used, can bring transformation to our country. And so even now, the economic stimulus has to come back on agenda. With COVID recovery, we have to stimulate our businesses. We have to stimulate those who are trying to produce and those who are trying to employ other people. So those conversations must find space. I know an election year is usually not the best time. So I'm hoping that even now, before the end of, say, like by the time the supplementary one is coming, that's around about December, we can get some discussion around an economic stimulus package that reaches the one that Mheshimiwa was speaking about in my own constituency, Odhaya, and in Nyeri County. We had the education one that was particularly good, and the health one as well, and veterinary services, quite useful. The health one was per constituency. The school one was very good. In fact, I remember at the time, the idea was to create an alliance in every constituency. Instead of all of us trying to squeeze in one alliance, why don't we create alliance schools? Because alliance is a standard. Alliance is not a school. Health is a standard. So that stimulus is a model, is one that I personally would also champion and hope that comes back on the table. But the idea is prioritization of people's issues, the special interest groups, the women, the youth, the persons with disability, their inclusion.
Will that matter with whoever comes into power? Because
it will matter a lot, the person who comes to power. Yeah, it's the leadership. Let's say, because eventually it's not one person. Is the leadership, is how much the captain steers in the right direction. The president has done well on infrastructure, for example, because that was also really a painful part of our growth trajectory. So now the person who comes in must not only do infrastructure, but also do the soft development, which is empowering the people. And it is happening. You know, sometimes we also beat ourselves too hard. Let me tell you, these conversations are not going on in any other country in Africa. So it is true. Tuko na tabia mbaya. We are a teenager that has refused to go. We are, especially corruption. But comparing ourselves to other African countries, we are also trying where we can and trying to move in the right direction. And I don't want you to forget my engine.
That's what we're coming into right now. Let's bring up the final feedback that you're sending through to us at Trevor Mbiji at Citizen TV Kenya using the hashtag Daybreak. Before I take in closing remarks from our panelists here, now they can send their shout-outs to the National Gender and Equality Commission if they so wish. Okelo Mwalimu says the rate at which politicians like the DP and Mudavadi have been flip-flopping on the BBI agenda leaves a lot to be desired. At one point, they supported it. At another time, they dismiss it. This is politics of convenience at its best. Boniface Mwabora says the security change is because of political reasons. I think the deputy president has no problem with that. He even said hata kukipatikana kazi ya AP apewe hata G4S ako tu sawa. Sharion says we Kenyans also need security because we pay taxes. At least the DP has the AP. We must long for even Kenya police to protect us, but they end up killing us. Thomas Lagat says ODM has no issue with Chebukati or the commissioners only because handshake is in place. They have always been differing with IEBC commissioners. Let handshake come to an end. Jacob Abere says, security issue, Ruto need to come out and have a stand than double speaking from his office and when in field campaigns, or face his boss and ask why than attacking Mtuya Mkono like Matiang'i. Okay. Kipkoech, Ruto is the second in command. He should be the second most guarded person, period. All right? Now I'll take closing remarks, starting with Manzo.
Yes, I want to agree with my colleagues here that the real problem in Kenya is corruption. We've got enough money. KRA has done very well. We've got enough resources. We have borrowed enough, which we should pay. But if you check averagely, every county has received close to 80 billion now. In fact, there's no county in Kenya below 80 billion. But if you just do an audit, 80% of that money cannot be accounted for. And similarly is in the nation, you know, the national government. And I think ESCC, I've seen the challenges as an advocate of Kenya, of High Court of Kenya, who visits the courts, and I've seen some of these cases. You find ESCC is stuck. It needs to be empowered more, and it needs to reach the counties, and really Kenyans. All of us, I believe, we are guilty of corruption in one way or another. From the smallest corruption with a policeman of Kenya shillings 50, with a border person to every, and also the election itself is corrupted. You find that unless you bribe the voters, you cannot be elected. And then, so the corruption begins with the voters. It begins at the grassroots and goes all the way to whoever is leading the country. So I think if we need to change this nation, we must work on the corruption issue as a nation. Yeah. And one way is making sure that in the next election, the minimum we can do it is to elect as many leaders as possible who are ready to fight corruption and have not been tainted themselves. Okay. But the moment you obviously elect a corrupt leader, then you are obviously making the country sink and sink further. So it's a challenge to all Kenyans that we must do something now. Let's all fight corruption together.
Okay. One day.
Trevor, as I wind up, I think it is now time for Kenyans to walk the talk.
Yeah.
And the issue begins and ends with integrity in leadership. And we are in conversation, we are in talks with like-minded legislators. I think it is time we gave proper effect to the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity.
Yeah.
And we are going to be proposing some amendments very, very soon on 3 statutes. One, I think, is the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act.
Yeah.
We are also going to propose amendments to the Elections Act and the Leadership and Ethics Integrity Act. For it to be clear that there is a level beyond which you cannot hold public office, or even aspire to hold public office. It is the Constitution is very robust at Chapter 6, but we have watered down the Constitution by way of statutes. Okay, so we want to amend those statutes and strengthen them so that we deal with this issue once and for all. And I hope and pray that our colleagues in Parliament will rally together and pass these amendments once they come to the floor of the houses, both the Senate and National Assembly. Okay, for us to see if we can have a change for once, because it is pointless, for instance, that we have got governors who, by dint of having been charged under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and having been compelled through the Justice Mumbi Ngugi's the directive to stay away office, are still essentially in office. For all intents and purposes, are in office. Okay? We have got people who are facing serious offenses and charges under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act in court, and yet are preparing war chests to run for elective positions in August next year. We are going to deal with this decisively once and for all through legislative proposals, which I'm spearheading, by the way. Yes, because my stint as chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee has really opened my eyes. Okay. I've really learned a lot. That unless we decide to walk the talk, we shall not go far as a country.
Okay.
Yes, we must bite the bullet, Trevor, as a country, for us to move forward.
All right.
Yes, no more talks.
Okay.
Yes.
Onyonke have closing remarks.
Very, very true. I think for me, the observations that I've been making are very simple. One, Kenyans have an ability to choose good leaders.
Yeah.
Irrespective of the camouflaged issues and irrespective of our tribalism, instead of our clan issues, Kenyans have a right to actually pick good leaders, people who can take our country to the next level. Like somebody said, people deserve the leaders they elect. So, where I've reached, Trevor, now in my life, I'm saying, if Kenyans want handouts, if Kenyans want to be bribed, if Kenyans want money so that they can go and vote at the polling booth, they are really wasting their time.
Yeah.
Because it is better for Kenyans now to begin asking themselves, can we pick a young person who is 22 or 23, who is intelligent, who has got wisdom, maybe he has been to school, and this person is actually elected, and we know his history. Our villagers know who we are. They know how we've been brought up. They know how we've grown up. Where does somebody all of a sudden come to the village? He is coming to seek for votes, and he has got 19 Land Cruiser VXs. What magic is it? And these people, they know. If you ask them, Trevor, they'll tell you that one we know who ni mwizi. That one we know who is a mortician. We know what he does with dead bodies. They tell you those things. Kenyans have now to sit and sincerely decide what type of leadership they want.
Yeah.
Let them make their bed. Let them sleep of it.
Yeah.
Number two, I completely agree with my brother Opio and my very able chair. We must figure out how to fix Chapter 6. Let us take Chapter 6 back for what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
We diluted Chapter 6 because some of us did not have degrees. We wanted to dilute that and make sure that this, we have even, some of us have never even paid our taxes, all that stuff. Let us have a structured way on how leadership can be leadership of integrity, credibility, and people who are wise. Our country needs philosophers now. Our country does not need crazies. Our country needs people who are going to steer the ship in such a clever and such a humane way so that this ship called Kenya can continue.
Okay.
And finally, I would like to say one last item. I want to ask all of us politicians who are running for political office, especially at the presidency, our politics is slowly degenerating into toxicity. We are targeting government officers, the kibichos. We are abusing people. The politics has been you insult DP president or you insult Raila and you feel sweet and you feel good in social media. It's all epithets and that. Democracy does not allow for us to insult our people who are our colleagues. At the end of it all, my experience, Trevor, I've just realized today I'll be hating you in public, you'll be on the other side and I'm on the other side. As we move ahead after 1 year, my brother Maanzo, we will be in the same coalition saying, hapa ndio mahali tutabadilisha nchi yetu. So what are you screaming about other people? And you are defending your leader, and yet hapa mbele, the two leaders may be together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable Priscilla.
Thank you.
You're the only one who will
and he has promised to say something on NGs.
Priscilla, I want to say this. The National Gender Commission. You've been one of my very highly respected sister. You know where we've come from. Thank you for the good work you've been doing. I don't know how we are going to handle the 2/3 issue when the elections have been done. But I think, remember we've tried to pass these for the last 7 years or so and we failed. But I think without BBI, you need now to look for the male leaders in the house and begin to engage them earlier. I think why you failed last time is that you came in a month too.
The tail end.
But I think you can engage them and make sure that we know that our sisters, our mothers are also part and parcel of this great country of Kenya, and they need to be given space.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Priscilla,
you.
there's the shout out.
Thank you so much. Let me just do quickly also on leadership and integrity, because it comes down to voters as well. as we prepare for the elections, it is very, very important for our country to continuously vote in progressive leaders who are not corrupt. We are paying a heavy price for the corruption, especially on unemployment. The reason we have unemployment is because of corruption. We are not going to create jobs for as long as our bucket is leaking. And our bucket is leaking thoroughly. In fact, ours is like, you know, maji inamwagika tu. So we can put that money in value addition, in agriculture, in the subsidies that he's talking about. We one time received a subsidy on fertilizer, and we were really happy, even in my own county of Nyeri. We have not seen it, I think, for the last, you know, so many years. So that corruption has got to be dealt with. The voters have a chance. When you're going to election, you don't elect the most corrupt governor and then start crying. You have to elect, then expect that yamebadilika. Hakuna kubadilika. If there is a track record of corruption, you must just be clear. But then for us, most importantly for the special interest groups, the women, the youth, the persons with disability, is to really be part of the electoral process. And one of the things is also to prepare, get your voter's card, get your identity card, participate as a voter, participate as a leader. This time for the NGC, as we mark 10 years today, we are going to be very watchful that the seats for the youth, and it is not young at heart, it is youth 18 to 35. You know, Kenya pia kuna mambo tu. Hapa you are a young tag for you are a young tag forever. Yes. You're still a young tag. Pana, 18 to 35. As per the constitution, women, the 2/3 gender rule, without the formula. The answer now is for women to vie. As it is now. Of course, we are looking at other possibilities, but women must vie in numbers. So our commission is going to be looking out for those matters so that we have a more inclusive country that is then moving forward and pushing the levers of development.
All right.
Thank you very much. We have the event at the Kenya School of Government, but it's also virtual. So inviting all of our viewers and listeners to really follow that conversation on gender equality and protection of special interest groups.
Thank you so much, Honorable Priscilla Nyokabi, Commissioner Ngek, which is the National Gender and Equality Commission, Honorable Richard Onyonka, Member of Parliament, Kitutu Chache South, Honorable Pio Wandai, Member of Parliament, Ugunja, and Honorable Dan Maanzo, Member of Parliament for Makueni. Thank you so much for making time.